Good evening. TMT Tribe presents sourdough waffles tonight. I have an old Krups waffle maker that I bought from a garage sale. So you don't have to have a fancy waffle maker. Any waffle maker will work. If you don't have a waffle maker, you can still make these as pancakes. Good evening. Hi, Suni. You can make these as pancakes. The only difference really between pancakes and waffles is generally there is more fat or butter in a waffle recipe versus a pancake recipe. Speaking of butter, I have butter in the microwave, I think. We're going to use melted butter as our oil in our waffles tonight. Makes it extra delicious. And we're going to do kefir whey instead of water. So this recipe is in my book. Very, very simple. It's just flour, water, sourdough starter, fat, so butter or avocado oil, eggs, and then from there it's just like salt and baking soda, and that's it. You just watched the chickens. Yeah, the reel with the chickens. They're so funny. They're so naughty. So naughty. Good evening, Fauza. This is one of the easier breakfast recipes. So with sourdough, the longer you let it sit and ferment, the more gluten it's going to break down out of it. You can mix these up and cook them right away like I'm going to do tonight. Or you can mix the flour, the water, and the sourdough starter the night before. And then the next day, you wake up, all of the gluten will be fermented out of that grain. And then you just add your eggs and baking soda in the morning. And it works fantastic. You'll get a little bit of that sourdough tang to it when you do it that way. So that is definitely a good option. My waffle iron is dirty. It's like dripping gross stuff onto my thing. So we're going to get started tonight. Super, super, super easy. I start off by mixing the water, sourdough starter, and the flour. So I'm going to just do that in my little Pyrex here. It calls for 1 cup of sourdough discard. So that's just sourdough straight out of the refrigerator, but you can also use fed sourdough if you like. So that's going to be the majority of my sourdough that's in this jar, which is totally fine. I prefer to use most of my sourdough when I use it and then feed it. That just means that we don't have to feed it quite as much as we would if we had more of the sourdough starter left. And since my jar has gotten exceptionally crusty, I'm going to switch to a fresh jar, I think. So I'm going to set that aside for now. So we've got my sourdough starter. That's about 1 cup of starter. And instead of using my water, I'm going to use kefir whey because I am straining some milk kefir for tomorrow. I have an event and I'm going to take crackers and kefir cheese as my contribution to the event. So I'm just going to take this part out and set it aside for now. And we're going to measure 1.5 cups of this kefir whey into my waffles. The recipe calls for water. You can absolutely use water. You can use kefir whey. You could use kefir. You could use milk. Any liquid will work just fine. This just adds some good microbes to it. And we're all about pre-digested protein, so this adds a lot of protein to it. So this 1.5 cups is what I need. You can also use your kefir whey like when you're making bread. You can replace the liquid in your bread with kefir whey. It's a good way to use that up and add some really healthy microbes and enzymes to your dish. All right, so we have our whey, we have our sourdough starter. I'm just going to use my little dough whisk and get that combined and just kind of break up that sourdough starter a little bit. And then we need 2 cups of flour. For this, I'm going to use my organic all-purpose flour, and it's just 2 cups, so I keep a scoop, 1 cup scoop in there all the time because I will leave it in there either way. So I just have a dedicated scoop for that bag. Okay, give that a good mix, and then we need 2 eggs. Ideally, it says room temperature eggs. I keep mine at room temperature because they are farm fresh, so no worries. If you don't have farm fresh eggs, you can just use your store-bought eggs and pull them out a little bit beforehand. But honestly, cold eggs are fine. It does not have to be that serious. Okay, there's our eggs. Grab a cloth. Getting egg on my countertop here. Okay, let's get those eggs mixed in. And then melted butter. This calls for a 1/4 cup of melted butter. Now this makes a fairly good bit of waffles. I have one that makes 4 waffles at a time. You're just going to have to mess around with it and figure out exactly how much to scoop on your waffle iron. Mine is about 1/4 cup, makes the perfect size waffle for my iron. Okay, so the next thing we need is a little bit of sugar. It calls for 2 tablespoons of either maple, honey, or granulated sugar. We're just going to measure with our heart with that one. I got some fancy Wisconsin maple. Okay, get that mixed in. And then we need salt. So this calls for 2 teaspoons of salt, which is just kind of that little nugget in the palm of your hand. If you've never measured with your palm before, I recommend getting your teaspoon measure, measuring the salt, and then pouring it in your hand to see what it looks like, just so you don't ever need a measuring spoon again. Okay, makes it really easy. That's how we learn how to measure with our hearts. Okay, last thing we need for this recipe is baking soda. So one brilliant thing that this recipe does is you use water and you mix the baking soda into it, and that kind of gets rid of the clumps before you add it in. If you've ever added baking soda to a recipe with just the powder, just kind of threw it in and gotten a clump of baking soda in your mouth, it's so gross. It's so gross. So this is a brilliant way to avoid that issue. So I just mix it with that water, and then we'll pour it in to our sourdough, like so. And that is my batter. That's what it looks like. It's not super soupy. It's not super dry. Just right in the middle. And we're going to let that puff up for a second, let the baking soda do its thing. And I'm going to grab my cookie scoop. Let's see. The large size cookie scoop is 1/4 cup, just so you know. And so my waffle iron, I'll show you guys that this is 1/4 cup measuring scoop here. And that is just about the perfect amount for this particular waffle iron. Now, if you have a tiny waffle iron, it may not need that much, okay? I like to spray my waffle iron with a little avocado oil. You can also just hit it with like a stick of butter. Makes it really yummy. This is handy. So I'm just going to give it a quick spritz, and then I'll take my little cookie scoop and put one into each of the cavities. And that makes measuring super, super easy. You're just going to have to mess with yours and figure out what the perfect size is for your particular waffle iron. This is also a nice size for pancakes. So I do pancakes with the same large size cookie scoop a lot. Okay, I'm going to put away some stuff while this is cooking. But that's like pretty easy, right? Why are we buying pre-made waffles? It's super, 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 super easy. Takes no time at all. Oh, how many cups is my glass measuring cup? This is an 8-cup Pyrex glass measuring cup. 8-cup. It has a lid. It comes with a lid. It's really nice. So with these waffles, you guys want to save them for later. Get out your cookie cooling rack, and when they're done, put them on the cooling rack and let them cool completely. And then you can put them either on a cookie sheet straight into the freezer, par freeze them for like a couple of hours, and then you can take them out and stick them into a bag. Once they're already frozen, they shouldn't stick to each other unless they start to thaw out and then freeze again. If you don't want to wait and par freeze them separately, you can stick a piece of parchment paper between them and freeze them just already in a bag. And then when you're ready in the morning and you want a waffle, you can just pull out 1 or 2 waffles and heat them up for the day. And the reason that's so powerful is because when you freeze grains, cooked grain products, it turns it into a resistant starch. So that means that your body is going to digest it differently, and it's going to have less of an impact on your blood sugar. Hello? It's not time. You've been out there for 12 minutes. I said, go outside. Go outside for an hour. All right. So here's my little waffle. So that I could probably let cook a little bit longer, depending on how golden you like it. I personally like to toast mine, so I don't want it to be too crispy right out the gate. I like it to be like just shy of crispy, almost like an Eggo waffle, and then you cook it the rest of the way when you toast it. So we're going to pull these out. So easy. So now, if you think, okay, my kids are going to eat these within the week, you can also cool these completely, bag them up, stick them in the refrigerator. Same deal. Once they hit the refrigerator, you're going to get those resistant starches. That's going to digest differently in your body, cause less of a blood sugar spike. So that helps a lot. All right. On to the next scoop. So I just grab the whole thing and bring it over my waffle maker so that if I spill, at least it's in the waffle maker. Never had nor made sourdough waffles or pancakes. Oh, you should do it. They're super easy. They're well worth it because the sourdough breaks down the gluten for you. It breaks down the nutrition that's in the flour. It ferments it for you and gets all those B vitamins out of it. Makes it so much more nutritious for your body. It's a good way to do it for sure. If you're going to have a waffle, like you might as well ferment it. If you're going to have a pancake, you might as well ferment it. Like these are things that are going to make your body react better to these carbohydrates. Makes them so much better for you. I don't know how long to let this sit. I put sourdough in pretty much every baked good anymore. I will do sourdough muffins. I do sourdough cookies. I do sourdough biscuits. Of course, Fauza. For sure, make them. They're well worth it. And it makes a lot. So like you can make it and have plenty for like an event. I like to do stuff like this for like a little brunch. Make a bunch of waffles. Super, super easy and delicious. And it's like takes no time at all. The hardest part of making waffles or pancakes is standing in front of the griddle or standing in front of your waffle iron and cooking them. Like mixing the batter takes no time. Like every time I think about how my husband used to convince me to buy the Bisquick, add water and shake pancake mix back in the day, and I was like, I don't know how to make pancakes. I guess I'll do it. When it's literally just flour and like an egg and salt and water. That's all. That's all. I'm like, how did I not put two and two together that like you can buy this powder that you just add water to? Like what's in there? My brain, my thought process has changed so much from my 20s to now. Like it blows my mind how much different I think now than I did then. Back then I'm like, oh, a pancake. You get a pancake from a restaurant. You get a pancake from a bottle. Like I didn't have the executive thought, like the function of mind to be like, wait, what actually is this? How come I can just add water and like shake this up and pour it and now it's a pancake? Why is this so easy? What am I doing? Pancakes and waffles are so incredibly easy. I think I actually like waffles better because mine makes 4 at a time, whereas pancakes, usually I can only do like 2 or 3 in the pan at a time. So I'm standing there for a while. I did figure out that you can bake them in the oven. You can do pancakes in the oven. You just do like a sheet pan and pour the pancake batter on it and bake it. It went from being a bachelorette on a budget. Yeah. It's just so different. It's so incredibly different. And I taught myself how to make all this stuff. My mom didn't teach me how to make things. Like this is something I figured out on my own. Because I was just like, I don't know, disenchanted with the ingredients and everything. And I was like, there's got to be a way that I can make this. And it turns out everything that I like make at home that I've hacked and started making has been so much better than the store-bought version. Significantly better than the store-bought version. So it always like boggles my mind when people are like, oh, but I want, Oreos. I'm like, ugh. I wouldn't touch an Oreo with a 10-foot pole. I would much rather figure out how to make a chocolate cookie at home than go and buy an Oreo. And it's such a diversion from how I used to think, So different. But it's definitely like a process. I didn't get there overnight. It was like one thing at a time. I spray the waffle iron usually I'll spray it like the first 3 or 4 times, and then after that I don't have to spray it as often. It won't get as crispy if you don't spray it. Like that's where that crunch comes from, is having a little oil on the waffle iron. So it's kind of up to you what your preference is. If it starts to stick, then I'll spray it. Like if I open the lid and the waffle goes with the lid, I usually know it's time to spray it. But usually it's like every other time for the most part. The kids are going to be happy. They love having waffles for breakfast. And I don't let them just have waffles. Like they're going to have bacon and eggs, and then they can have a waffle. We don't just eat waffles. Because that's not the best. Too much carb, not enough protein. The whey definitely helps. The whey has like 8 grams of protein per cup, so We added a solid 12 grams of protein to the waffles. Yeah, we'll just have eggs and probably breakfast sausage with the waffles. Breakfast for dinner style. We had bacon this morning, so we'll probably switch it up and do sausage instead. Yeah, like weenies. I have these chicken sausages that I get at Costco. We'll have those for dinner for a protein, and then they can have waffles after. Be easy. Oh my gosh, my friend came over to visit. She brought her kids over to play, and I opened up the crackers for her to have some, and they ate all of the graham crackers I made yesterday. They are gone. I always post the live. Of course. Of course, of course. This is my favorite part. This like crunchy in between part is my favorite. I also like the crunchy cheese that falls off of the pizza. I like the little crispy bits. Okay. I will also post the replay for this on my TMT Tribe community, so you can go back and watch it anytime, and I'll have the recipe posted on there as well to make it really easy to find it all in one spot. Yeah. Fun stuff. So easy. Like, simple. You can do different flavors if you want. I've seen people will put like sprinkles or chocolate chips or blueberries. But personally, when I do that, I like to put the batter in the cup and then top it and then press it. Because if you mix it into the batter directly, it all sinks to the bottom, and then you'll have like 3 waffles that are very blueberry, and the rest will have like 1. So it's not so good. Not so bueno. What's everybody got going on this weekend? Any fun plans? Tomorrow I have one of my Nourishing Traditions meetings that I go to. We do it bi-monthly. And so they're going to be talking about fascia, which I think is very interesting. I haven't learned much about it. Yes. Suni said, do you remember I sent you a picture of my kefir that was separated? Can I use the whey from that for my pancakes and waffles? Yeah, you definitely can. As long as it still smells good, you should be fine to go use that. Absolutely. Just strain out your kefir grains first, and then you can strain off the whey from that. Absolutely. Okay. See, now it's starting to stick a little bit on my thing. So I'm going to have to spray it again next time. My waffle. It's hot. Most people would be like, ow, ow, ow. But I have kitchen fingers. My fingers are calloused. Okay. So far we have 16 waffles. So it makes a lot. I think I got maybe 5 more in here, and we'll be good to go. You can make savory waffles too if you want to. You could put like onion powder, garlic powder, cheese. Those are super yummy. Definitely does not have to be sweet. I'm getting ready to make, my friend does these lentil pancakes, sprouted lentil pancakes. So I'm going to try to make those. I'll let you guys know how those turn out, because I know that we are all looking for ways to get better fiber into our diets, and lentils can be a little rough to be tolerated for some people. So sprouting them and then fermenting them with kefir, really good way to help break down the stuff in the lentils that make you a little tutti fruity. Help it be more digestible for you. So I'm excited to try those. I've been sprouting lentils every day for my chickens. And so I was like, can I use these sprouts? And she's like, they'll probably taste sprouted. So you don't actually sprout the lentils. You like soak them for 3 days, she said. You like rinse them and soak them with salt, and then you ferment them. Yeah, it's going to be a process, but I'm excited to try it because they look good. And I feel like we need a little bit more of that like resistant starch in our diets. It's good for the poops. This was the best find ever. I got this at a garage sale for, I think I paid $5 for this waffle iron. I've been using it for years and years and years. It's like the most basic design. You plugged in, it's on, unplug it, it's turned off. It doesn't need to be anything fancy. You don't need like a, Belgian waffle maker where you have to like flip it. Like you don't have to buy anything super over the top. Any basic waffle iron will do you. And I got to make sure I pack these up. Last time I made waffles, my kids, I left them out on the counter and kind of forgot about them, and my kids ate all of them in one day. I was like, that was a lot of waffles, guys. I did not need to eat that many waffles. It happens. You live and you learn. Okay. We did it. We've made, how many is that? 24 waffles. It's a decent haul of waffles. In less than 45 minutes, we hammered that out. Does anyone have any questions about sourdough waffles, sourdough in general, converting from waffles to pancakes, anything? Any pressing questions? This was the most perfect one I made. I feel like I could put a little bit more batter in there and it would fill in all the gaps, but I think it works pretty good. Questions, concerns, thoughts, criticisms? So now I just try to wipe off any excess crud on my waffle iron once it's cooled off, and then I put it away. Very inspiring. Good, good. It's not hard. It's not hard. Sure, it takes a little bit of time, but mixing up a waffle mix or a pancake mix takes pretty much the same amount of time, and you still have to cook it. So it's like, do I choose my good ingredients? It doesn't save you time. It doesn't save you time. It took me 3 minutes to get all these ingredients out. It takes more time to drive to the store and buy the ingredients than it does to pull them out and mix them to make waffles. It's that easy. It takes no major effort. All right, I'm going to feed my sourdough starter real quick while we're on here. Let me get some water. My sourdough jar is so crusty. Yeah, you could definitely adjust the recipe for one person. I would cut it in half. So you could do half a cup of sourdough starter, third of a cup of liquid, cup of flour, 1 egg. Like you could easily half it. But freezing it is so much easier. You haven't fed your sourdough starter in months. Do I think it's still good? Probably. Most likely. It might need a couple feeds, potentially, but if there's not any mold on it, you should be good to go. Just scoop some out and give it a really heavy feed, and you can probably get rid of the rest of it. But I've had a friend who her father-in-law's sourdough starter was in their fridge for like 3 or 4 years, a long time. and we were able to get some of the starter out of there. We fed it for about a week, and then it was back in action. I'm going to switch jars because my jar has gotten a little crusty. That's about the only time I switch, is when it starts getting like crunchy lid. What means a heavy feed? So a heavy feed is like you take a tiny bit of sourdough starter and you give it a cup of water and like 2 cups of flour. So like a teaspoon of sourdough starter to 2 cups of flour, that's a heavy feed. That's a lot of food for your microbes. Okay. All right, so now I'm going to get a fresh lid too. This one's very crusty. So mine probably had a half a cup of sourdough starter in there to start. And we're just going to add flour until it's a thick paste, is how I feed my sourdough starter. That helps to strengthen the yeast in the sourdough starter, so it rises your bread a lot better. It makes it a lot more powerful. So you're going to get a lot taller loaf. 1 teaspoon of sourdough starter to 1 cup of water to 2 cups of flour, or flour until your starter is thick and difficult to stir. It's not like super precise, but basically more flour than water, and way more flour and water than starter. So you want it to look pretty darn thick. Okay. Not runny. You want it to like stick to your jar, stick to your spoon. I'm going to grab a scraper. So now that I've fed my sourdough starter, I let it sit out on the counter until it has at least doubled in size. So tonight, probably into tomorrow morning, it'll be good to go. And then you can bake with it right away if you want, or it can go into the refrigerator. And usually it is good to go for several weeks before you have to do anything with it again. I try to do something with it once a week. So if you make it a hobby or habit where every week on Sunday you make sourdough waffles, then at least once a week you're going to feed and use your sourdough starter, and so it'll always be fresh and ready to go for you at any point. So if midweek you're like, I need to make bread, your sourdough starter will be ready to go out of the fridge. Just pull it out, mix it up, and it's good to go. This has been the ultimate way to make sourdough super accessible for me, because if I have to plan 24 hours in advance to feed my sourdough starter to make bread, guess who's not going to make bread? This girl. I need that sourdough starter to be ready to go when I'm ready to go. Because if I have to have forethought, it's going to be a problem. That's why I end up always making my buns. I usually make them with yeast, because a lot of the times I get the idea to have hamburgers that day. And I don't have time to make sourdough rolls because it takes a whole 24 hours beforehand pretty much to get it ready. So if you're bad at planning, this is the best way to do it. Sometimes it's even too late for that. Like occasionally I will make regular yeast sourdough pizza. Like I'll put sourdough discard in there, but I won't ferment it with it because I wait till the last minute and I forget. So you can still add sourdough starter to it and mix it in and use yeast. So there's still sourdough, but it's not fermented when you do it like that. It's just another option, another thing you can have in your tool belt where you can still use the starter, still get some of those good microbes in there, but have it be ready like right away. Yeast has its benefits for sure. But that's it. Super, super easy. We made sourdough waffles. We talked about how to store sourdough waffles, how to heat up sourdough waffles, and we fed my sourdough starter. So tonight, this is going to sit on the counter and it will fill up this jar and then it'll start to drop again. I try to put it in the fridge before it's dropped all the way back down to this level. I want to put it away up here when it's not super hungry yet. That's the best time to store it. And that's it. I thank you guys for coming and hanging out with me today. I hope you learned and feel empowered to start making this simple breakfast food. You don't need a box. You don't need to buy prepackaged. It's so basic. Grab my book if you need the recipe, or you can message me for just this recipe. I appreciate you guys hanging out today. I'm going to hop off. Good night, everybody.